Thank you so much, Raylan. And thank you all for being here on this Dharma Sunday and Easter Sunday for those who observe. You might hear, I apologize, I might be muting at various points during the meditation because my kids will be doing some egg hunting, I think. I told my husband to not do them all over, upstairs, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, it's so lovely to be with all of you today. Pardon the looks of our office. We're actually moving and packing up, and we're moving east. We're going to Vermont in a few weeks. And so we have boxes and papers that we're sorting. And so here I am in my messy way, but very present and so glad to be with all of you. So today, I didn't title beforehand, likely because I am living in this very liminal space right now, but I wanted to talk about non-judgmental awareness and how we use that, or that we cultivate non-judgmental awareness in meditation, and sort of how that permeates and allows us to access our basic wakefulness in daily experience, and sort of why are we cultivating non-judgmental awareness? Why is that important in the first place? And so I wanted to use this time to talk about what I call gentleness with a capital G, as well as this notion of how our basic awareness is inherently non-judgmental, innately compassionate, innately non-judgmental. And so when we sort of use this approach of tapping into non-judgmental awareness in our daily actions, we are helping and facilitating and fostering the process of accessing our open, spacious awareness. So the antithesis of open, spacious awareness is this sort of muscle we use to create our world. And sort of like the self and other, the complex that says, this is this, that is that, this is me, that is you. That's a basic function. That's also part of the mind's clarity, the vividness of mind. And yet, when we don't sort of expand upon the gaze that allows to see the ground, the basis from which all of those judgmental reflexes come from, we can live in a world that is very much claustrophobic and limited to snap judgments, and we get in vicious cycles that sort of cater to maybe feelings that don't feel so good, and we don't have a lot of control in that, right? We begin to live off of snap judgments as opposed to being present with what's actually happening, which allows us to overcome situations and be, or at least in the very least, be more present for them. And that presence is non-judgmental awareness. True presence is non-judgmental awareness. I wanted to share this quote before we take refuge today, one that I found from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And I quote him while also recognizing that he was a good teacher, but had a lot of problematic things in his life and behaviors with students. So just so you know, I am using a quote that I identify with, but I don't identify or align myself with a lot of his actions. I condemn those actions that harmed students. So are the great spiritual teachings really advocating that we fight evil because we are on the side of light, the side of peace? Are they telling us to fight against that other undesirable side, the bad? That is the big question. If there is wisdom in the sacred teachings, there should not be any war. As long as a person is involved with warfare, trying to defend or attack, then his or her action is not sacred. It is mundane, dualistic, a battlefield situation. So he uses this analogy of battle and war. He did that a lot with the sort of warrior, uh, Shambhala warrior sort of allegory he worked with. But basically, this notion being that um, there's nothing to come up against in ultimate reality. There's nothing to come up against. We're not like running away from something in order to get to something better when we embark on a spiritual path. We're not trying to escape our foibles in order to be better, but rather to fully integrate our experience of being present with whatever arises for us internally and what it's thrown our way externally. This full integration is to be fully present and open in this spacious, non judgmental awareness. So, with that said, I will speak a lot more on this throughout the teaching, but let's take refuge. And I'm also taking refuge in watching Dave in his greenhouse. That's so cool. Thank you. That's just really wonderful to see. All right, so let's go to refuge now. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until enlightened. By the power of generosity and the other perfections, may we realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until enlightened. By the power of generosity and the other perfections, may we realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until enlightened. By the power of generosity and the other perfections, may we realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all. Wonderful. So, we're going to begin this morning with meditation. And I always like to start with a somatic grounding meditation in our bodies because our bodies have natural presence. They allow us, like the earth, a place for holding, a place for grounding. So, with that, find a comfortable seat, whether that is seated in a chair or on the ground or in your bed, whichever best supports your body in the process of presence, open, spacious awareness, and comfortability. Allow yourself to settle in to the space around you, anchoring your breath and awareness, acknowledging the weight of your body on the ground or in your chair. Gently allow your breath to settle naturally, uncontrived. Do your best to keep your spine as upright as comfortable, as if you have an invisible string going all the way up through your center, through the center of your crown. This allows for the breath to flow naturally in meditation. Relax your gaze, relax your shoulders, relax your chest. Relax the muscles in your stomach, allowing the breath to flow naturally. Slowly allow your attention, breath, and awareness to turn to your feet, noticing the sensations in your feet, imagining or envisioning that you are able to breathe through your feet, in and out of your feet. Breathing in and out of your feet, witnessing any sensations or lack thereof, noticing and simply letting that noticing pass through the breath naturally. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness from your feet up through the ankles and calves, imagining that you're able to breathe in and out through your entire lower leg, noticing, witnessing any sensations that arise, allowing that awareness to gently ride the breath. Breathing in and out through your lower leg. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness to your thighs, through your knees, up to your thighs, envisioning that you're breathing in and out through your upper leg, noticing any sensations that arise, witnessing them and letting them pass and ride the breath. Breathing in and out through your thighs. Slowly, gently move your attention, breath, and awareness to your stomach, noticing the rise and fall of your abdomen as you breathe naturally in and out of your stomach. Use this as an opportunity to let go of any tension you may hold there. Witnessing any sensations that arise, letting go as you exhale. Gently breathing in and out through your stomach. Move your attention, breath, and awareness to your back. Imagining that you're able to breathe in and out through your entire back. Noticing any tension, any sensation or lack thereof. Witnessing it and letting it ride the breath. Letting go of fixation. Allowing spacious awareness to witness as opposed to fixate. As you breathe in and out through your back, gently move your attention, breath, and awareness from your back to your hands. Envisioning and imagining that you're able to breathe in and out through each of your hands, through each finger, the palms, the back of hands, the knuckles, every finger joint, allowing your attention, breath, and awareness to fill the entirety of each hand. Breathing in and out through your hands. Gently move your attention, breath, and awareness from your hands up through the wrists and forearms. Imagining that you're able to breathe in and out of your lower arms. Noticing any sensations that arise, letting them ride the breath. As you breathe in and out through your forearms, Gently move your attention, breath, and awareness to your upper arms and shoulders, imagining that you're able to breathe in and out through your upper arms and shoulders, noticing any sensations, being aware of them and gently letting them pass out with the out breath. You might notice that this breath allows your shoulders to relax. Let them. Breathing in and out through your shoulders and upper arms. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness to your neck, your throat, allowing the breath to relax that space, noticing any sensations that arise or lack thereof, simply noticing them and letting them pass with the out breath. Breathing in and out through the sensations of your throat and neck. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness up through your head and face. Imagining that you're breathing in and out through the entirety of your head and face. Noticing any sensations that arise, allowing yourself to be aware of them and letting them pass with the out breath. Relaxing your facial muscles. Breathing in and out through your head and face. Breathing in and out through your head and face. Slowly allow your breath to pervade the entirety of your body, from the crown of your head all the way down to your toes. Let the breath fill the entirety of the body imagining that you're able to breathe in and out through every pore of every part of your body. Noticing any sensations that arise and letting them simply pass on the riding breath. Breathing in and out through the entirety of your body. Slowly allow yourself to come back to the present space around you. In this room, in your room, in the Zoom space with all of us. And as you're coming to, take a moment to have a stretch, a sip of whatever you're drinking. I always like to start with a body scanning or somatic meditation because um, I like that the body as a container and vessel is naturally unbiased. You know, the body, like the earth, like when the historic Buddha Shakyamuni attained enlightenment, he touched the earth like this, which is called the earth touching mudra now because he did it. And he said sa, which means earth. And with the earth as my witness, with his body as his witness, the earth and the body are inextricably linked. Our body is made up of elements just as the earth and space around us. And we're usually so busy catching all the fireflies of thoughts that we seldom just have time to sit on the ground and take note of all the space surrounding us and the space we're made up of. So that's why I always start with somatic meditation. And it goes very well with our sort of talk and teaching today about gentleness or tapping into non-judgmental awareness. Um, so with the next meditation, um, we'll begin with just tapping into that basic non-judgmental awareness through shamatha. And then we'll go, which is calm abiding meditation, also known as Shinay meditation. The Sanskrit word for that is shamatha, and the Tibetan word is Shinay, which means calm abiding. And basically, what you are doing with somatic meditation, Shinay or shamatha meditation, is essentially allowing your awareness to anchor on the breath. Using the breath as an anchor, you can also use other objects. You can use what's called impure objects, which means just like I could use my coffee cup, and you allow your gaze to rest gently on the visual field in front of you if you have a coffee cup or just whatever's in front of you. And um, a traditional metaphor that's given is you let your gaze gently settle the way a butterfly sits on a rock. And you're not sort of like meant to pick apart all the cracks you notice or the pieces of dust or the hair on your cup, but rather to just allow your gaze to be anchored on a focal point so that you can work on attending to what comes up. And so as you sit in one position and you let the breath sort of gently come in and out, you're anchoring your awareness. And so what you'll notice is thoughts will start to arise because that's just how the mind works. There's nothing wrong with that. And people have this notion about, oh my gosh, I tried to meditate, but the problem was I just couldn't stop thinking. We never want you to stop thinking. You can't. And, you know, that's not really the name of the game. In fact, the name of the game is really that you allow yourself to be yourself, which is allow yourself to notice what comes up, whether those are sensations in the body or thoughts in the mind. And instead of basically swirling out and creating more storylines about them, like, oh, you know, okay, so you start thinking about, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? Well, we had chicken last night. Oh, I don't really want to have any more chicken. I'm so sick of cooking. Now you're like a whole paragraph and a half a novel away from, publishing a new autobiography, where instead you can just sort of do this technique, which is you can label a thought as thinking, or sort of do what we did in the somatic body scanning meditation, which is you sort of let the thought ride the breath. The way that thoughts pass in the sky, you sort of just like notice the thought and let it pass on through. And you're not trying to push it away, because, in fact, when you try to do that, it's like a monkey in a cage, and the thoughts might just proliferate. If you're like, stop thinking, then you're just going to be thinking about how you're not supposed to think, and then a million more thoughts about what happens when you're doing what you're not supposed to be doing. But anyway, all of this has to do with that gentle touch that we're going to keep coming back to today, this sort of gentleness, this non-judgmental, spacious awareness. When we tap more and more to this sort of earth-like quality in our bodies, this earth-like quality, this sort of spaciousness, this vastness, we tap into mother awareness, which is prajna paramita, which is the mother of emptiness, the mother of integrated awareness and emptiness, this the mother wisdom. So we're going to start with this calm abiding meditation, and then I'm going to incorporate a visualization of light that many of you have done with me before. And the reason I do that is because um, to purposely, intentionally visualize something calls upon a natural faculty that's taking place all the time in our lives, in our continuum. And it's important because essentially every single moment, our 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 bodies and minds and psychology, our ego, we're constantly engaged in this process of creating from moment to moment, like in a single moment, from one inhalation to the next, from one blink to the other. One universe is created and then sort of dies back. Every moment, we're actually made up of these pointillistic, infinite stream of moments, but we have this narrative that we create of being solid that coheses them into this feeling of there being like a connected whole, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way that our mind works to try to piece together and make sense of our world. But we can, when tapping into sort of the pointillism of every moment, um, there can be a freedom to tap into that non-judgmental awareness, because you can be aware of the fact that things are constantly changing. And that's also a part of bearing witness in a non-judgmental way, is noticing the way things are constantly changing and interrelated. So to purposely generate something visually is sort of to call upon the faculties that are constantly taking place in an unrecognized automatic way. So in a sense, like our eyeballs, every time we open our eyes, all these like light photons and parts of our eyes are working, cones are working together to create our visual field and the perception of it. And so to create it and generate it, sort of imagine something, is a really great exercise in utilizing and becoming aware of sort of like how we create our world. So we're going to start with the next meditation. So begin by finding a comfortable seat again, whether that's on the floor, in a chair, on a bed, whatever works best for your body. Relaxing your shoulders, allowing your arms to fall from the shoulders, settling your hands either in your lap in the mudra of equipoise, or you can place your hands on the tops of your thighs, whichever is most comfortable to you. Naturally settle your gaze, allowing it to rest somewhere gently in front of you without fixating on any points in particular. Rest your tongue on the roof of your mouth, slightly allowing your jaw to slightly open and relax. Do your best to keep your spine and trunk upright, imagining that invisible string. This helps the breath flow smoothly. Begin to attend to your breath, the natural rise and fall, without fabricating or contriving your breath in any way. Allow your attention and awareness to ride the breath. Your breath becomes an anchor for your awareness, a gentle anchor. And as any thoughts or sensations arise, simply notice them. You can label them thinking, feeling, and let them pass with the breath. The naturally pure mind needs no alteration. Don't grasp at it. Don't release it. Leave it as it is. Now, with your attention, breath, and awareness, visualize a ball of light at the crown of your head. Holding that visualization of a ball of light at the crown of your head, anchoring your attention, breath, and awareness to that visualization. Breathing in and out through the ball of light visualized at the crown of your head. Slowly move that ball of light with your attention, breath, and awareness from the crown of your head inside to your throat chakra. Imagining that a ball of light is resting inside your throat, holding your attention, breath, and awareness to a single ball of light resting inside your throat. Breathing in and out, holding your attention, breath, and awareness on the ball of light inside your throat. Slowly move that ball of light from your throat to your heart center, resting that ball of light with your attention, breath, and awareness in the center of your heart. Breathing in and out through that visualization. With your attention, breath, and awareness, move the ball of light from your heart center to your navel center, bringing your attention, breath, and awareness to the visualization of a single ball of light resting at your navel. Breathing in and out through the ball of light at your navel. Breathing in and out through the ball of light at your navel. Slowly allow your attention, breath, and awareness to allow that ball of light to travel down below your navel to your root chakra, about 3 to 4 finger widths below your navel, resting this ball of light at your root chakra. Breathing in and out through this ball of light at your root chakra. Slowly allow that ball of light with your attention, breath, and awareness to dissolve down through your body into the ground, dissolving the ball of light into the ground, letting the light permeate the ground, allowing the visualization to completely dissolve, resting your mind in the dissolution, letting completely go on the out breath. Being present for the letting go. When looking at your mind, the essence, let your mind remain relaxed. Rest in freshness, rest freely, rest loosely. Okay, slowly coming back to the space around you. Take a stretch. We're going to take a bit of a bio break and then come back for the second part of the teaching and for the Q&A. Let's take a 10-minute bio break. Hello and welcome back. Good to see everyone again. So, where were we? I wanted to talk about gentleness. So, gentleness as in accessing non judgmental awareness. And we can begin to practice this in our daily life because, after all, the real practice takes place in our daily interactions and what happens in between formal practice sessions. Um, those are called in Tibetan, those are called tunsam, and which is literally just means, in between formal sessions. Tuns are formal sessions. And what you do in between your formal meditation sessions is, I will say this, it's actually the practice. So when we're sitting on our cushions, it's sort of like when we do weight training, and you try to do it to become stronger. But becoming strong has no bearing in our lives if we can't, use it in our actions, right? Like if you can just lift heavy weights, okay, cool, that's great. But now you will be able to lift your children or your grandchildren better, or, you know, not get hurt when you try and hike and things like that. So, meditation has a function essentially. And the function of meditation is to be able to integrate what you learn and are practicing in your meditation into your daily life. So, integrating this non judgmental awareness or gentleness can be done through working on practicing through the three gates. The three gates are the body, speech, and mind, just a way of sort of categorizing different parts of ourselves. So, um, in training with gentleness of body, speech, and mind, we're not simply censoring our actions to become good people, like that quote we read at the beginning, which is like, you know, the point of one's spiritual path is not to negate our experience in hopes of finding something outside and better than what we already are. It's rather to become fully present in all that we are and all that we experience, and to become less and less biased towards things, to become more just present, aware, and non-judgmental, so to speak. So when we train our minds to become gentle, essentially, it means resting in spacious awareness throughout our daily interactions, grounded in this motivation of bodhicitta. And then bodhicitta means, the heart of one's Buddha nature, that wakefulness, then this inspiration and aspiration to help others, right? So once you become fully aware of your innate, spacious, loving awareness, this wellspring of wanting others to experience that naturally flows. And so, setting that intention and aspiration when we apply these practices, these mindful practices in our daily actions and interactions, it's always, I find it helpful for both inspiration and aspiration to connect it to this notion of wanting to, like, whatever joy I experience reminds me of the fact that, like, I want others to be happy, right? That I want to share that joy. And sometimes we can cultivate that feeling through relative experience, which is, like when you love someone very much, whether that's your partner or an animal or a parent, you think like, oh, I just want them to be happy, right? Um, an ultimate bodhicitta, or the ultimate version of that intention, is sort of a non-judgmental, it's an equanimous wish for this kind of contentment to be pervasive, so that all others can recognize that, our true nature is this always, already, ever present, spacious, loving, open awareness. So, with gentleness of body, when we train in that, what does that mean? It means the practice of listening. So much of this mindfulness, this gentleness, practicing non-judgmental awareness is about having a mind that is a bit more geared towards listening. Because in meditation, that is a big part of meditation and familiarizing ourselves is creating that sort of stopgap, not really a stopgap, but basically giving yourself the space, the container to not to witness, right? Bearing witness to what's unfolding as opposed to simply acting and reacting. So, part of practicing gentleness of body is to practice listening, taking care, and being present with your own body and whatever arises. And that's something that we often take for granted without even noticing it, right? For various reasons, we might find that even when we're sick, we have to go to work, or, oh, my rib hurts a little bit, but I'm just going to keep gardening because I really want these bulbs to turn out, and okay, you can do that. But sometimes giving yourself the opportunity to really listen what's happening in your body, right? Sometimes we can learn from the body something that's going on in our minds. Sometimes sickness, I find, is a really great opportunity. When I'm sick, I often find that sometimes when I'm sick, it's after I'm talking about in this case, like short term illness, like cold, flu, things like that. I find that I've been pushing, or I haven't really been listening. I haven't been getting good sleep. I've been sort of like on a go, 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 and maybe not very gentle with myself, putting undue higher expectations. And then eventually my body, as a container, sort of falters and says, like, well, you just need to rest. We're going to create the causes and conditions for you to be gentle towards yourself. And in being gentle with our bodies and listening to our bodies, that also includes practicing respect and healthy boundaries and listening, in negotiating our bodies in the spaces with other bodies. So, in order to take care of others, for example, we always have to come from a place of gentleness towards ourselves. So we can't possibly help other people. There's this, the beautiful notion of being bodhisattvas or wanting to become enlightened or awakened for the benefit of all sentient beings is such a beautiful aspiration and wish, but we can't possibly succeed in that without beginning by starting from a place of self-love. Self-love often makes people feel uncomfortable to talk about. It seems like, woo woo, or something that just makes people feel really weird. Like, well, shouldn't I mean, sure, I love myself. But actually what self-love, true self-love and self-regard comes from really recognizing and bearing witness to this inherent wakefulness. So the fact that you possess this open, loving, spacious awareness that is always already ever present, and it is the basis of our being. This is the basis of self love. It isn't, that is from where you have the ability to truly appreciate who you are, and truly appreciating who you are also involves a sort of non-biased gentle gaze upon yourself, because if you're constantly judging every action, every misstep in such a way, it is really impossible for you to settle in to just being, right? We always can aspire to make changes and to improve ourselves. That's okay. But if, we can't just say, we have a tendency of really like hanging on our every word and, oh, I made a mistake, so I am bad, right? You made a mistake. You're human. You have the ability to make better choices, right? So that's sort of the outer layer. But then from the inner layer, when we listen through the practice of meditation, when we become witnesses to our own sort of experiential continuum, we begin to find a place of like natural quietude and richness that is latent within us, that is like always already ever present. And there's something deeply healing and integrative about that experience alone that allows us to become naturally less judgmental about ourselves and others. So, being gentle towards our bodies is also, and others. Being gentle, we cannot be gentle towards others without being gentle towards ourselves. So, our body is no different from our mind. Um, it is a source of awareness and self understanding. The act of listening to our bodies, tending to our physical needs, and learning to listen to the impulses that arise from our bodies is a great source of wisdom. I mean, Lama Willa wrote a whole book about it, and I would totally recommend reading it, but about, the wakeful body, right? The body can often tell us things if we listen because it's very naturally present. Um, so like the earth, the body is our container and is a living vessel that helps us recognize our natural wakefulness, our gentleness. The body often knows first. So, gentleness of speech. What do I mean by gentleness of speech? So, one way to practice gentleness of speech, again, is adopting that listening first mentality, where often, we can say things very quickly. We often regret things when we speak out of turn. And I don't mean, sometimes we can have quick speech that comes, at the right time and it isn't out of turn and you don't regret it, right? Sometimes we have difficult conversations and we know exactly what to say, even though it's difficult. But usually our most poignant words come from listening first to the impulses of the body, listening first to what's happening, being really present with what's arising in you, knowing first, sort of looking and listening first before we act. Um, so being mindful of our speech impacts us and others and shapes the world we live in our experience. Um, you know, I often find that when I'm in a rut and I'm tending to focus, what happens is I tend to focus on my own flaws, and then focusing so much on my mistakes and flaws and constantly judging myself gets me in the cycle of judging others more, right? The mind is naturally mirror like and projective. So the mind tends to do that. So if you're really judging yourself, I mean, that's the whole psychological theory of projection, right? Is that the mind, what you project onto others is very often something that you an idea that you have about yourself, or something that you think about yourself, or um so this self-critical narrative affects our speech as well, right? And we can have harsher speech if we have a harsher sense towards ourselves. So gentleness towards others is a listen for gentleness towards ourselves and others is like the listen first approach. Um, like the body, we're listening to receive its wisdom rather than forcing it. We listen to others to hear what they think and feel. We listen to receive and be present to what's actually happening. Um, it's really amazing. I forget the name of the philosopher. It's like a German female philosopher from the early 20th century. Anyway, she was saying that attention is like the most generous thing of all. Our attention is the most generous thing. And it's really true, in raising children or in loving and caring for others, that attention, our attention is like the richest gift. So basically, in meditation, we are nurturing that ability to attend to ourselves, to attend fully, to become aware of our own awareness. That is like, and then through becoming aware of our own awareness, we can begin to really pay attention. Um, Most of the time, it's really hard to pay attention for us because we're very much either dwelling in the past or the future. We're using the projective quality of mind to make up sort of like how we were doing, as you see when you watch yourself in beginning meditation, right? Where you notice you're thinking about what to cook later, then suddenly you're thinking about how you have to go to the grocery store, how you're sick of going to the grocery store, how you're mad at your spouse that you're always the one going to the grocery store. Well, I'm also mad at my spouse for doing this 10 years ago. And then you have all this, and it takes you away from presence. Presence, your present awareness is naturally non judgmental. So the more you allow yourself to attend to your present awareness, the more naturally non judgmental you become. And the importance of this non judgmental quality is that it allows you to live within a state that is naturally free and content, as opposed to a totally abiding in a state that is very extreme, right? We're constantly living in these extremes of being too hot, being too cold, being too mad, being too sad, feeling sad about our sadness, feeling mad about our madness. It is okay to feel sad and mad and all of that. Of course it is. Just like clouds pass in the sky, feelings arise, they're energy. Feelings are energy. But what ends up happening is we judge the experience of those feelings. And then we have sort of this byproduct, which is this like judgmental experience. And that really causes the grit and basis of our suffering, and what causes us to act in ways that is harmful towards ourselves and others. Um, the basis of liberation, this idea of liberation in the Buddhist context, is not to escape who we are and become something better at all, but rather to fully connect to who we actually are. And that is through the act of listening fully with body, speech, and mind, and attending to the present, to our awareness at the present moment. We face our eyes, we gaze out. There's a dichotomy between the world and ourselves, and we see it like this: I'm here, you're there. But through the act of meditation and familiarization, we literally learn how to gaze upon our own faces. True, 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 true introspection is becoming fully present to your awareness. When awareness gazes upon its own face, that is what is known as liberation. So that's why I very seldom use the word enlightenment, because I think that this, in people talk about like this Sanskrit idea of nirvana, and because we live in this very dualistic world, suddenly it's like, this is samsara, this is nirvana. They're two separate spaces. One is on the right side and one is on the left side. I want to go to one way and away from the other way, as opposed to really explaining that the root of wakefulness, those two things are actually two sides of the same coin. So the word for our wakeful awareness in Tibetan is rigpa. And our sort of non-aware state is simply referred to as ma rigpa, which is just that ma is the negation of rigpa. So just from the word standpoint, what Rigpa and Ma Rigpa both contain Rigpa. Your confusion and your wakefulness are two sides of the same coin. Essentially, your non-wakefulness is just simply the fact that you haven't yet become aware of your awareness. You haven't learned how to tap into your own awareness, to become aware of your own awareness. But it is already present despite that. That's what it means when people say you have Buddha nature, which is the belief, which is different from a lot of Judeo-Christian beliefs. There is no idea of original sin or anything like that in Buddhism, but rather this idea that we possess Tathagata Garbha, your basic Buddha nature. So that is the ground for our wakefulness, which is that we always have it. So we're always becoming awake to that which we always already possess. This is a lot of big stuff, when we start talking about this awareness with a capital A and this Buddha nature. Things start to feel like outside the scope of our experience, but really the reason I use this terminology of gentleness and this listen first approach with body, speech, and mind is because it's I find a more accessible way to think about integrating this practice of meditation in our daily lives, which is that we just attempting to sort of tune in to letting your body and breath be present in a given space in a moment of time. Allow that sort of attending to your body and breath in any present given moment to sort of be the basis from which you act. Trying to, get rid of snap judgments and reactions and just be a little bit more nuanced about your approach to thinking about what to do and how to react. Cultivating space, essentially, having more space. So I want to take this time now because I've been talking a lot and all over the place, and I really just want to hear from you all. One of my favorite parts of being engaged with this NDF community is that it's such a vital space for, coming together and talking about what we're experiencing in the context of, our practice, our lives. I'm just interested in hearing from all of you. And so, you know, it's a Q&A, but it can also be, just basic sharing. Um, this is an opportunity to sort of talk about what you've been mulling over in this practice session, um, how the meditations landed with you, stuff that's coming up for you within your practice and life, that you want to sort of talk about in this space. So, with that, please feel free to raise your hand and not simply ask a question, but if you want to also share. Everyone here is a teacher. Also, if anyone has any questions about any of the specifics of the meditations that we did together, Renee.
Hello, thank you so much for. It's like the perfect topic for what I've been wrestling with, this non-judgmental way of being, and
Yeah.
how to kind of go beyond the negativity bias, which I have become really aware of, that I lead with that. And so, of course, and I try to counter it with gratefulness, gratitude, the other side of the coin, and just getting in, creating a new habit of being more gracious and gentle. So, um, I have a question about the visualization, the ball of light. I'm
Yeah.
not able to really see the light
Yes.
or feel it. I'm assuming it's warm if you really manifest it, but I have a sense for it, but I just wonder how to cultivate that and bring it more.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes. So I just want to address the first part of what you said, which is, yeah, gratitude and all those things are a great way to sort of combat feelings of negativity and judgment. And also just sending some love and just being present with that judgment also helps it, right? Just being really present with
Mhm,
whatever's arising, even if it is negativity. Um, simply, like sort of what we did in the somatic meditation with the body scanning, the way that you notice any sensations that arise in your fingers and then let them pass through with the breath. Sort of like just noticing negativity as it
mhm,
arises in you and sort of breathing through it, not trying to use another concept essentially to like wipe it away, right? Like, well, I could be
mhm.
grateful. I am also grateful and mad, but in
Right.
which we all do, but literally just like letting it be, being present with it, and then allowing yourself sort of as if it's like a piece of your body for a moment, like breathing through it, just breathing through it as it is. That can also be helpful. And now for the visualization, I find that um, whatever works, especially in initial phases of visualizing. So for me, when I first started visualizing, it was just sort of like a notion. You know what I mean? I was like, I there's a ball of light. You know what I mean? Even like that sentence, I sort of like plaster that sentence in my psyche, like there's a ball of light. And then sort of relaxing. I find that, a lot of times, we didn't get to do as much of the shamatha in the beginning, which is just the calm abiding meditation. But the more you sort of ground yourself in your body and breath, the more you'll be able to sort of be less judgmental about the process of visualizing, which will allow visualization to be less contrived, right? So, um, it's funny, visualization is this like contrived thing. We're like purposely contriving something to reach a
Mhm.
state of non-contrivance, which is seems counterintuitive. So to the best of your ability, I think just sort of like be with whatever that is, the more you can sort of accept your lack of visualization in the moment, the more that sort of like lends itself to being able to visualize. And it sounds counterintuitive, but the more you're like, I'm okay with the fact that I can't visualize the ball of light. I'm just going to sort of let myself sit with that feeling of like, and also just you're not connecting with a visualization, you can just drop the visualization, like just stop trying to visualize and just connect with the breath. That's the surest way. And just sort of like keep trying, sort of like, taking the break is sort of like connecting with the breath again as your focal point. And then when you feel like relaxed again, maybe try again to adopt the visualization. And if that starts to feel clunky again, drop it and go back towards the breath. Yeah.
Okay, that gives me
Yeah.
a lot to work with. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Renee. Kathy?
Hi, I just had to find my unmute button. Thank you so much. Um, this has been a great addition to what I was doing this morning. I'm in the Marga program,
Uh-huh.
and we're reading this book called Fearless Simplicity by Sangye Rinpoche.
Yeah.
And, it's that, well, it's great after a lot of it was very heady about
Yeah.
realization, enlightenment, niyam, rigpa. And
Yeah.
I just try to sit there and take it in whatever I can, and it's like I don't get this, and that's okay. And so it was just such a great counterbalance to have
I'm
a meditation, Zoe, that's so grounded. just in non-judgmental with the body, with the breath, just the basics.
Yeah.
So, I feel like it's kind of rounded out my
Good.
experience today. And also I'm always aware, not so much in the reading because my mind is so there, but just with the exquisite subtlety of
Mhm.
experience, and that touching into awareness, and then being aware of touching into it, and I like that idea of baby rigpa, that you know it's just okay, it and again, I think that gentleness is such an important, really an important invitation for allowance to be wherever we are.
Yeah.
So I really thank you for this meditation.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathy. It's so, I mean, I think we can all, or at least I can relate exactly to that, that things get, I mean, that's why I always like to talk about gentleness and sort of the like, that is a bunch of like subtle micro adjustments as opposed to like this like macro seismic, like you're in line with truth. And then, it's actually really, 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 there is no path apart from our footsteps. Like it is that which we walk. It is the air we breathe. It is our stuffy noses, whether they're clogged or free. It's we are it. This is it. There is no experience beyond our experience. And it can be difficult to understand that because our mind is always working in this dualistic framework just because we're habituated towards it. But it makes it so it's so hard for us to like even understand because we like make it harder than it is. And so there are all these like great stories. And my teacher used to tell this story about because he was Tibetan and a Tulku and all this, and he was like the most you know incredibly visceral experience I had that I'll never forget, better than like listening to all the kempos or like the scholars telling him like what to read or what to meditate on. He said was his teacher like chased him up a hill and was like, run faster, go, and he was only 16 years old and he was like, go, run, 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 run. My teacher was like, I'm kind of short and stocky and he's really short and stocky. And they're like, run, 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 keep going. And he was like really out of breath. And then the teacher was like, keep going, keep going. And then he's like, now sit down. And he was just sitting and he was like, oh, like it was just in the moment of sitting and like panting and being out of breath where his mind was no longer trying to think about all the notes that had been given about like this is it, this is not it, this is what it is, where it was like, oh, he could rest for a minute. And it reminded me of yesterday. I was in the car and we had a family event. It was my grandma's 98th birthday and everyone was together in the car. And my sister and my husband said to me, both kind of at different times, we were all in the car together with the three kids. We have like a big minivan. Are you okay? And I really hadn't. I had been so unaware of how like I think I was really lost in thought. I was thinking about we're moving and I was thinking about how I'll miss my family. And I was kind of ruminating, but like I was so out of it that there was something so beautiful that when they said that to me, it gave me this like really just like natural opening to connect with like where I actually was and recognizing that I'm so often not just present, that once they said that, I could sort of like tap in. And it made me realize that that is it. Like just finding these small moments of like breathing warmth onto our own skin by just really being where we are. That is it. Anyway, thank you so much, Kathy.
I just also wanted to say quickly that I have that little Thich Nhat Hanh book on walking, and I
Yeah,
just opened it up to, it's so beautiful. You walk heavily, you walk gently, you walk, there's a flower, I mean, again, just
yeah,
all these little reminders of what you're saying.
yes,
They really help just point the way, don't they?
they really do. Thank you so much, Kathy. And I recommend these books that Kathy said. So both of them. Okay, Elaine.
Hi, thank you so much. This is my first time on a Sunday program like this. I'm also in Marga, and
Mhm.
my first year in Marga, and I absolutely agree with Kathy. Sometimes the reading and the detail that we're getting into or being asked to get into sort of in a way it sort of removes me sometimes from the things that we were talking about, that you were talking about today, because everything that you were talking about was so relatable and
Yeah.
so easy to bring into myself personally, and it sounds like others also. So thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed it very much. It was very meaningful, and I wasn't going to take notes, but I took 2 pages of notes. So
Oh, wow.
um, so I've got you on record. So
Thank you,
so
Elaine.
you're welcome. So I did have sort of a question. I'm not quite even sure how to phrase it. But when you were talking, well, what maybe we'll start out with a question. You had the light on the crown and then moved it through our
Right.
bodies. I'm not quite sure what the objective was. And then I think you related it to the chakras as we went down our body. So I was trying to I didn't feel warmth from the light. And I think I'm at the beginning phases, so it's more an object at the top of my head and it's light and it lightens up my body or lights my body up. But I couldn't, and I don't think I still quite understand what the relationship is between the light and the chakras, and then the overall objective of why we did that.
Okay. Great questions. Really great questions. Honestly, do you want to know, Elaine? I've taught that meditation 200 times, and you are the very first person to have ever asked me that. Do you know that? I'm
No.
actually so impressed because nobody asks. And I actually I appreciate that you're asking, because I think part of the reason people don't ask is not good. It's not to judge the people for not asking, but I think it's really good to ask, like, what are these? Because these are, kind of like, this is an old meditation that I got from my teacher. This was from a yoga that was developed in the, you know, what was it? Like 17th century. So, um, it's really important to ask, especially when you're learning like traditional Buddhist stuff, like, where did this come from? Why am I doing it? What does it all mean? So I'll answer it the three prongs of your question. So the first one is about why. Why are we doing that? So it's twofold. One is, I sort of briefly mentioned it, but it probably sounded a bit esoteric. I even felt that way as I was explaining it, which is that um, so when we break down the qualities of mind to better understand our own selves and understand ourselves, one of the in the sort of Tibetan Buddhist ideology, um, one of the qualities of mind is this clarity. So it's like there's a quality of mind that's sort of spaciousness, right? Like, sort of, if you imagine, like, like, if you look out at a field or just outside, there's like the trees, and then there's the ground, and then all the things flying about and walking around. But then there's the space surrounding it, right? There's like a container, a feeling of a backdrop, right? A backdrop for things to take place. So that's one aspect of mind, that there's this like backdrop. But then there's all these things, right? There's like trees and people and sounds of my baby crying and all sorts of
Mhm.
things like that. And that quality is sort of expressive, right? Like the way that, if you imagine painting on a canvas, right? So the spacious quality is just there. That's the canvas. And then there's this paint being applied to the canvas. And then suddenly it's full of images, right? And colors. So the mind has this ability, the way that I was explaining, like, even on a scientific level, the way that your eyes use light and anatomical and physiological processes to create images. The mind is constantly creating. Our mind is innately creative and expressive, and that's why we have thoughts, feelings, and perceptions of like the outside world. So when we do something called visualization, it's basically purposely using the expressive quality of mind and learning how to work with that.
Okay.
So you're sort of like, you're learning how to sort of like self-reflect on the creative processes of mind, so to speak. It's still a bit kind of esoteric because,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
you know, but for lack of better word, basically it is part of the view. And the view in Tibetan Buddhism is sort of that we're kind of always creating. We're kind of always creating our universe from moment to moment. And that, you know, have you heard about emptiness or interdependence? So
Sure.
like interdependence wouldn't exist without this sort of like different causes and conditions coming together every second to make something be present and presently perceived. And so, anyway, what this creation stage meditation is about sort of puffing on the glass of your creativity, essentially. Sort of trying that out, being like, how am I the master of my own universe? How do I create things? What does this look like and feel like? So anyway, you're sort of revving that engine of creativity. Okay. So that's that. Then the chakras
Yeah.
body, that is part of a system developed in the yogas. So yoga, the literal translation of yoga is union. The union you seek by practicing yoga is the union between body and mind, because we live in a sort of dualistic Descartes like notion where we're like, I think, therefore I am. And we're always trying to boss our bodies around, you know, like I am, especially. I'm a stupid 38-year-old and now I'm getting really into weight training. And I hurt my rib the other day, but I still went to weight training class. And my husband was like, well, that was stupid. Why would you do that? And well, I'm really into this right now. And anyway, so we have this very divorced notion where we're like, that's why gentleness combats that. This non-judgmental awareness, yoga helps you find that. It's a union. So when we visualize these chakras are part of a system that helps us sort of mind our bodies. It's a roadmap for minding our bodies. The way that
Okay.
doctors learn anatomy in Western medicine, the anatomy helps them to tune in to like understanding how they can heal and know a body. The chakras within the Tibetan Buddhist yogic system are ways to help mind and body connect. They're like little anchor points so that you can have a way to sort of mind your body and like and connect the two. So there's a whole system actually, and I will do another teaching at some point, but like there's all these different chakras. There's one up here, there's one at
Yeah.
your throat, there's one at your heart, there's one at your navel, there's one at your root. And then there's a central channel, and then there's a channel on the right and a channel on the left. Anyway, this is a Tibetan Buddhist way of connecting to the mind-body continuum.
So is the light a means to literally highlight the chakras?
So the light is, yeah, it's a basically a touch point.
Okay.
It's a touch
Okay.
point. It's a touch point. So you're generating a touch point or like a flashlight or yeah, but it's also just sort of an energetic holding. Like you mentioned warmth. It's so funny how creative the body is. A couple people mentioned warmth. I didn't even mention it being warm. You guys said that, which is fine, right? But we connect to things in different ways. That's why the Buddha had 84,000 teachings, now over 84,000 because of all the new teachings coming up. But basically, it's just sort of a method. It's a skillful method. They call it skillful means. It's a skillful method so that you can sort of, it's a way to point to these different points in your body.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Did I see Raylan?
Hi, Zoe. I just
Yeah.
wanted to talk about Donna,
Oh,
and
sure.
then I do have a question from a participant as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I'll ask that question. So I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for being here. One of our practice here at Natural Dharma Fellowship is what we call Dana, which is, it means generosity in Pali and Sanskrit. And just being here, as Zoe mentioned, your attention, your awareness is very generous. And we're really grateful for that. We are also grateful if you're able to make a financial gift. And so I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you feel moved to make a donation, you can send one directly to the teacher or to Natural Dharma Fellowship in general. And that also helps us to be able to offer programs like this. So I'll put that link, those links in the chat. And then Zoe, I do have a question
Yes.
from a participant. This is from Renee. And then I have a question for myself.
Okay, great.
Could you say where you did your 3-year retreat in New York?
Yes, I did it at a place that is was once called Kaju Tupten Choling and now is called Palpung Tupten Choling. It is the same place where Lama Willa did her 2 3-year retreats.
Thank you so much for that. And then my question, Zoe, is when you were talking about like things aren't being like point to point, and then connecting to this like whole, there was this like somatic like knowing of like, yes, like there was like, okay, something resonated. And but I still struggle with it like conceptually. Like part of me gets it. So during our meditation, I was kind of like, I kept like orienting to this, like this resonance of yes. My question is how does that relate to like karma?
That is huge. That's huge, Raylan. You know what? I love that though. So it has everything to do with karma, honestly. So basically karma literally means cause and effect. It's how people describe causality, right? So that every action has a cause and reaction, right? And so all of these, you know, so you that would like you learning about this sort of like pointillism of every moment, right? Like Trungpa Rinpoche used to say there's that every moment is a birth and a death, right? Every moment you're experiencing that system over and over again. And another way of sort of digging into that system is have you heard about the skandhas or the 5 aggregates or heaps?
Mhm.
So if you study the 5 skandhas, it sort of really talks about that. It talks about sort of the phenomenology of each moment as like your senses perceive and then your ego attaches to them and then you have that moment and blah, blah, blah. So it talks about that. It's a great resource. And all of these teachings, again, are because the reason there are so many teachings, 84,000 teachings, is not because they're like each different, and they are each different, but the point is because there are so many different kinds of people, and the point is everyone's going to connect to something differently, right? And so the Buddha was trying to find medicine for every person, right? Like every teaching is a different medicine because everything has like a good teacher in a first grade class, fourth grade class is going to be able to teach to each student's ability, and someone can learn because everyone has a different style of learning. So basically karma is so subtle. It is the most difficult thing to understand in some ways because it's like everything is karma. So basically, yes, that is how karmic formation is taking place in those moments. Basically, every moment that is like, William Blake used to say, increments of infinity is like the human psyche creates increments of infinity. So karma essentially are those increments of what is infinite, meaning like we have this basic awareness, this ground, but every time that sort of creative aspect moves and is sort of captured by our attention, that is karmic formation. Yeah. So yeah, every moment has karmic formation, but when you recognize the sort of fabric of awareness that is the ground of that process, that is also the release of karmic
That's like
expression.
the self-liberation in a
Yes.
sense. Okay.
Yeah, self-liberation. Yeah.
It's helpful.
Anyway. Yeah. But karma is such an amazing, complex and beautiful topic. So, yeah. Anyway, I could go on for a whole teaching about karma. So thank you for reminding me that I should at one point do that. Okay, so let's dedicate, because today was such an amazing, thank you guys. This was such a special morning for me to be with all of you, and let's dedicate the merit. May the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably until all are fully illumined and awakened. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.